All right, so because we have taken much time, let me just help my ministry. So good morning once again, everyone. All right, I understand that in our last class, we started one of the very important topic in JavaScript, which is called JavaScript DOM, right? And I explained to us the necessity of you as a developer using JavaScript as one of your front-end language of using or understanding DOM. Remember, we started by knowing the full meaning of what? DOM, to be document object what? Model. Document object model. I will explain that to be different methods on how to select HTML what? Elements while you are in JavaScript, right? And I related it with the same scenario when we were dealing with external CSS, where we have to reference elements by their ID, by what? Class, and even by their tag name. So we explained some of them. I think we started from get element document dot what? Get element by ID. And then we move to what? Which other one again? Which other one again? Was that the only one that we verified? We also verify what? Query what? Selector, which I said is it works with the same principle, the way CSS works, right? Now, and I said we also talk about some of the properties that are used alongside with this method, right? Can anybody still remember those properties? Inner HTML, text, what? Content. You said? What? Sky. Sky. Class list. Class lists. Okay, so this session I've dedicated it for. I just want to look at two of them and one. Yeah, the add event listener and query selector all. Yes, I remember. I'm giving that is what I want to give to us as an assignment. Please read it out. Let them take note of it now. Go and research on what? Arrow what? Functions. Arrow functions. Yes. So when you submit it in the next class, if you did not get it, then I will just do a revision. Because what I have taught us, I believe in research, we should be able to, because we talk about function. The only thing is that you are to research on the type, which is called what? Arrow what? Function. So it's not going to be totally strange. I remember, but I look at it that if I bring in that, I may not be able to cover this topic. So that's why I said, okay, let me give it out as an assignment. So in the next class, I start on time. I will look into it. So we are starting with add event listener. Add event listener. You see, how many of us have seen AutoCAD app in a website? You have seen it, right? That is a practical application of what? Add what? Event listener. Because at some point, you click on the item, the products, right? Once you click on that buy, then it pops up what? A kind of quotation, right? Where you specify how many of them do you want to go for. Are we together? So let's start with the definition. But what I know is that This particular function is widely applied in JavaScript in developing most apps. So pay good attention to it after I have explained the parts that I have for us. You will still take it home and go and what apply it in different scenarios. Now, let's start with the definition. Add event listener. Think let me create a different JavaScript file just for this so that we can understand it very well. Add.js. So using comments. So this is the syntax. I want us to know that this function syntax is case word sensitive. So wherever you see me using capital letter, you follow it. Add event. So the A is what? Is what? Capital letter. Then the L is what? Capital letter. Please, you need to understand this. So this is the function. So how do we define it? Add event listener in JavaScript. Add event listener in JavaScript is a built-in method or function. Is a built-in method or function used to attach. The keyword here is what? Attach. Used to attach. Used to what? Attach. Attach an event. So we get to know very soon what an event is. Though I explained it in the last class, if you were there. That's how. Good. Add what? Attach what? An event to an HTML element. To an HTML element. Now, two things are involved here. One is the element to attach what? The event to. The second one is the event itself. And then the third one is what? What will happen to that element when the event happens. Now, we can see events as an action. Are you with me? We can see events as an action. For example, click, mouse over, press, submit. These are what? Events. So in other words, I can program a reaction on which element? HTML what? Element, which could be an image, which could be a button, which could be a form, which could be what? Any other, could be history, could be Peter. So it is left for you to determine what you actually want to achieve that will determine the type of what? Events that will be required. Now, just to explain further, right, note, it allows you to run a function. Note this, very important. It allows you to run a function when a specific event happens. It allows you to run a function when a specific event happens. And that is why I told us that we should see event as an action. So what can we refer to? Open a bracket and write like click. So these are some of the events that can trigger such words function. Easy word, click, comma, mouse over, key up, key up as in key, then you key up, and etc. So there are so many events. There are events that once somebody scrolls the page, maybe you enter a web page, you scroll, the background color of the page will change. Just scroll. In other words, when you get to the web page, you meet a particular background color, right? The moment you start scrolling, another background color will come up. These are ways of you being dynamic with your website. All right, so let's quickly look at the basic syntax. I told us that as a programmer, it is very, very important you understand the syntax of any function you want to run. So let's look at the basic syntax. Basic syntax of add events. Add events listener. So how are you expected to construct the function, and what are the parameters that are involved? So you get to find out from understanding the what? The syntax. So the syntax is that element, make sure you are writing this, element dot add events listening. Add event listener. So this is a function. Now, inside this, what will be the function input? I remember I have explained to us what we mean by what function what input, right? Can anybody remind us what we mean by function? Because once the moment you open the parenthesis bracket, it means you are about to specify what the inputs of that function. So in other words, we can say that the function inputs are the information, the data that must be given to the function to get the expected what? Results. So one of the inputs is events. One of the inputs is what? Events. Okay, so after events, you put a comma, then followed by the function. There are some parameters that are optional, which I'm going to do away with. If you want to use them, then you can research further, but I just want to focus on what matters. Now, this is what? The syntax. So let me convert this to comments. Now, I want to simplify the syntax so that we know what will be happening per section. Now, if you look at this element, the definition I gave you says what? It allows you to attach, right, an event what? So this is the HTML. That means what? You must reference what? One of your HTML what? Elements. That dot means what? Concatenation. It means that you are building it on. Are you with me? So when you say element, let's say what? That place of element can be replaced with the div. It can be replaced with what? The p tag. It can be replaced with h1 tag. So if we are saying h1 dot add event listener, so what that means is that you are building event on what? H2 or H1, right? Now, let me logically give us the picture of what we are saying in programming. Pay attention here. Now, let me use you and your child. You know, some of us, we carry our children to school, right? In the morning, let's say 8 a.m. And then the child will program an event on you. What is the event the child will program on you? That daddy, once you see my flashing, you come and pick me. So you see how the child have programmed an event. So it is now the flash. The flashing now is like the click here. The flashing now is like what? The mouse over. So once the element receive that action click, it will call a function. That is why you can see event. So event must happen first before what? Calling what? The function. So the function is what will happen, what will it do once the event happen. I don't know if anybody understand that illustration. Yes, so once the child flash you, you leave your house. You start what? Going to the school to pick the child. It means the child programmed something that you listen to. to know when to what to go. That is it. That is it. That is why I cited that AutoCAD. At what point will JavaScript know that the user want to buy a product? It is when the user click on the what? The buy what? Button. The moment you click on the buy button, what will JavaScript? So a programmer must have programmed a kind of what? A form, right? That will be popped up in order for the user to what? Or for the admin to collect the buyer's what? Information. And once that form has been completed and click on what? The next. In fact, sometimes once you click on the, depending on how the programmer actually what? Order it. So once we have filled that form, then it takes you to what we call what? Checking out. Checking out or check out. That checkout is what will eventually take you to the payment what? Gateway, where you now see the available option. You can pay either transfer or through what? Your card. I mean, of course, if you have ever purchased product for Jumia, you know what I'm talking about, right? So you can see that there was a time the person clicked before it calls out what? The checkout. The checkout is where the person gets the summary of what he or she wants to what? Buy. How many of them? What is the cost of what he or she wants to buy? And then finally, once you verify that, and then click on that add to cart, and then you do that checkout, it takes you to what? To the payment gateway. Then from there, once you apply your detail and then you get paid, and then the logistic company will be activated to deliver what? The product. So that is one scenario where this particular function can be used. So there are so many apps where you can apply it. All right. So now to break it down a little, I will just summarize. Notes. This, I hope you have written the syntax like this, right? So I'm trying to explain what is this element, what is this, what is this. I'm trying to simplify it. So you can just write it what? Event listener parameters explanation. Event listener parameters explanation. The first one I want to explain is the elements. The elements. And the element means the HTML elements you want to listen to. The element means the HTML element you want to what? Listen to. The HTML element you want to what? Listen to. Now, let's explain the next one, which is the events. Events. Events is the action expected to come on the HTML elements before the function created can be triggered. Before the function created can be triggered. I said the event is the action expected to come on the object, the HTML element, in order to trigger the created function or the function you created. So example of some of these events. This event can actually be classified. We can classify them as mouse events. Are you with me? Keyboard events. We have mouse events. We have keyboard events. So you can research more, but I'm just picking some of them. So just to break them down, we have the click. So the click, is it an example of mouse event or keyboard event? Click. Keyboard, mouse, what? Event. Press. Press is what? Mouse, what? Event. Good. So example of some of the events: click, mouse over, change, and so many others. So go and research. So quickly write down these assignments just where you are. research more on mouse and keyboard events outside the ones we are going to use in this class. Research on other ones. Make sure that not just finding out their function, look for an example how you can apply them. Make sure that you are able to apply them. Then we have the function. Let's explain what is the function. What is the function as part of the parameter of the addEventListener? The function is the code to run. The function is the code to run where the event happens. The function is the code to run when the event happens. Are you with me? When the event happens. That is the function. So let's take our very example, the first example. Let's take our first example so that we'll see how we can apply all these grammar fluencies. So let's take this one as example 1. Now, I want us to understand this logic. HTML document is involved, right? Before JavaScript. So as we are writing your example, write HTML. So HTML, let me create HTML file. Let me create HTML file. So I want to name it add.what.html. And then of course, since I'm working with external JavaScript, there is need for me to do what? To link them, right? So hope you still remember, use the script resource and then / consult the JavaScript file. So now before that JavaScript, I can have my HTML here. So my HTML here, we are looking at, we want to develop a very simple application that enables user to click on a button, and when they click on a button, certain function will be displayed. So let's say button. So under your HTML, you write this button. Of course, I'm going to use a method that will select this element by its ID. So I'll give it ID. Let's say my button. Let me just use that. Let's say my button. My button, and for them to see the button within the page, I'll just write what? Click me to see the function. Click me to see the function. Click me to see the function. So now I need another element that we control. What will this button be controlling its appearance? That is the reason why I am bringing the p tag, and I will also select the elements with what? An ID. So let's say with an ID, mess. Then I'm not putting anything inside. Why? Because I'm just going to use it to display what? An action. So this is what I need in my HTML. Then I'll now go to the JavaScript file and then write my DOM function or method. Remember, we are still under what? JavaScript what? DOM. In other words, how you can use JavaScript to model what? HTML what? Elements. How you can use it to select, to reference. So I'll say document dot get elements. Document dot get elements. Document dot get elements by ID. Remember, it is case what? Sensitive. Now, what is the ID? The element that we want to remember, we talked about what? element dot what? Add event listener, right? In other words, you are attaching, right, a particular event to an HTML element. So between these two elements that we created, which one of them do you think we are attaching the add event listener or the event to? Is this one, right? So I'll take that one and then supply it as what? The ID, because I want to capture it first, and then before I will now say dot what? Add. Can you see it now? So from the syntax here, look up this for a second. You see the whole of this now, is what we have done here now. Are you getting it? In other words, you have already captured the HTML element you want to build this event on. Now you are attaching the what? The event on it. So add events, like I said, is case sensitive. Event listener. Now, remember those parameters that we add event listener. Yeah, ER, not just even out. Thank you. Add event what? Listener. Now, remember inside the, thank God that is still here. How many parameters do we acknowledge here? One is event, one is what? What the events, what will happen if the event occur. So that will now be click, and it should be what? Recognized as string. Click. So it is click event. So in other words, it's until the user click. That is what we are saying. And what is the syntax? We have to what? Separate them with comma. And then I'll bring in the what? The function. So what will happen once they click? So I will use anonymous function without name. And then I will now remember that is a function, so you have to complete it. And then after this, you open the calling what? Bracket. So you move this down like this. Remember our function declaration method when we last function, right? That there is a section called what? Code block, right? Good. That is where you are grouping. So this is the syntax. Now, what exactly do you want to see when the user click on that button? When the user click on that button, what do you want to see? What I want to see should reflect in the other elements. Here, this particular one, what I want to see will reflect. So now this is how I am going to, I'll select that element, document dot get elements by ID again. Now this time around, we are selecting which ID? The ID of what? This mess. So I'm selecting this ID. You will understand the communication once we are done with the application. Now, we will now concatenate it with what? What we want to tamper with. We are going to send, listen, pay attention. Now, what we are saying is that I created these two elements. One has content, the other one does not have what? Content. Why? Because when they click, that is when the content will be supplied from JavaScript. That is the logic. So now let's go back there. So dot, so how do I manipulate the content of HTML element from our last class? Which of the method property will I use? I will use what? Test what? Content. Are you getting the logic now? Test content to be equals to. So this is how you are passing in what will happen when the person click on that button. Then what I wanted to see is what? Welcome to Digitech Sales Hub, comma, and online training platform. So you can see how I am creating an advert now. So you can, within your website or that website you are building for that client, if you think deeply, there are minor things you can program. Probably maybe to know when next a new class will start, or when next we are giving promo. So click on this button to see what the promo we are giving. So there are so many things you can actually factor into your website. But sometimes most of us we deviate our attention from this minor thing that look creative by wanting to do those big things in our website. What we fail to understand that website is about what? Communication. And the communication should be simplified, not complex. Now, once you have written this, remember our code writing principle. I need to tell JavaScript that I've come to the end of what? That line. Of course, there is need for me to also end my code here. So what will be the interpretation? What will happen when the user click the button? The p tag element will display that what? Welcome to us, DigitalZ Hub and online training. Now let's quickly render the file. Of course, to render the file, we render it from where? HTML, right? So we'll right click and use our extension live server or files server to see whether we are getting the action. Okay, so now if I click here now, you want to show it, right? So let's debug. Is there anything that's where is it? Is it in my JavaScript? Where is it? This one. Oh. No wonder when I was expecting the library to come. It wasn't coming up. I was like, what is happening? Okay, so let's check. So perfect. So you can see it. So once they get to the page, they are not going to see that advert. See the logic now. But you have given instruction here. Once somebody wants to see it, you are only trying to tighten up your website. You don't want to fill up everything. So when they enter the page, the website is look what? Neat. So if they want to see things, they should order for it. Now, classwork. I want them, when they click here, the text colors should be red. Is your class start from what I taught you last time. Let's see how you can implement it. Okay, so we want to take one more example, but this time around we want to make it more conceptual, want to make it more real, like if I am building a website, how I can actually apply it directly. So let's assume that in your website you have displays of images, and these images can represent your products, and you want users to click on the image before they can see the costs of that image. In other words, you want to tag the price, and you are given an instruction that for you to see the price of any of the products you want to buy, click on the button or the image itself. So it's a mini project. So let's write the application output down so that we are coding, we know what we are targeting, right? Example 2. Under the application of addEventListener. Example 2. Still on what? Application of addEventListener. So the example is that create a JavaScript code that adds an event listener to an image. create a JavaScript code that adds events listener to an image. That add events listener to an image when the image is clicked, comma, it displays the costs. So this is the app. When the image is clicked, it's what? Displays what? The costs. So example, let's start from the HTML file. Like I said, you cannot talk about add event listener without what? Acknowledging what? The HTML element. You are attaching that event what? To, like we have established. So let's quickly go to the HTML and sort out the HTML section. So as we are writing in your notes, HTML part of that example, I will start by creating what? An image, right? So the first thing I'm going to do is to find a way of adding an image to this very what? Project. I don't think we have any image here. So let me quickly download the product picture. So let's say it's about computer. Just to get an image to use. So right-click, select Save Image As, then target your project folder, which is, what's the name of that project folder? I think it's JavaScript on desktop. So you locate the name of your project and add the image there. JavaScript. Open it. So let's say IMG. So I have it directly added. Now I'll activate my image tag as usual. So the source, I'll take it from, remember that we did not add it to what? To a folder, the way we have it writing. So it's directly added to what? To the directory. So I will just call it there. That is the source. Then I have to assign alternative what? I believe you still remember all this. Alternative means what? What we show if the image fails to what? Display, right? Okay. Now, remember that we have to add a, okay, so let's find out if we have our image display first. Okay, so we have the image what? Display. So the next thing is for us to create that element that will trigger the action, which is what? Let's say p tag with an ID. P tag with an ID. I can just give it what? Demo 1. Demo 1. Or let me give it a more descriptive name. Products costs. So in other words, who can tell us why we are adding this? Remember that what? It is the image that will be clicked on, right? And then why are we not adding this? This is what we are going to use to display what? The costs. So the cost must be carried by what? An element. So now we are done with the HTML section. Now we go to the JavaScript section. The JavaScript section, I will start by creating what we call what? Function expression. What is the function expression? Where you store the whole method in what? Variable, right? So I will say what? Costs. Hope you remember the meaning of cost. Cost is a keyword, right? Which is used to what? Initiate what? Variable. Now I'll say cost image. So in other words, the image is what? Is a variable, right? Is a variable that is going to what? Store the image element from HTML. So how are you reaching out to the image?
remember that what the image, we are selecting the image by its ID name. What is the ID? What is the ID of that what image? Did we even add ID? If we did not, we have to go and add ID. We did not add ID, right? So I have to come here and add what? ID. It is very important. We need to add what? ID. Sorry. Let me bring it here. To enable that method to select it. And the ID is product image. That is the ID. So let me quickly copy it. Control C. Going back to my JavaScript, document.what gets elements by ID, and the ID is that ID that I just copied. Okay, so that is the end. So what you have done practically is, listen, what you have done practically is what? You have collected the whole of what? This element, right? And right now, you have stored it in what? In what? Image. Did you understand it? That is the communication. Should I explain again? Yes, sir. You have captured the whole of this by saying image is a variable as where it's going to be saved, equals to what? Document.getElement by ID. Which ID is this? The image ID, right? Which means that at the moment you stopping here is as good as that image tag. The whole of this image, the picture, has been captured in JavaScript and saved in what? Image. That is why I stopped there. That is what we have done now, right? Now, the next thing is for you to also create another variable, costs. What is this variable? Cost, I'm using a camel case, cost of what? Elements. Cost of elements is equals to gets, is equals to document, is equals to document, dot get elements by ID also. Get elements by ID. So which of the ID are you referring to? Go back to the HTML, this particular one, because you now also want to what? Look at what we are doing now. We are capturing the two HTML elements in JavaScript. So what we want to capture now is what? This. And we are also capturing it with what? Its own what? ID. And then I go back here, then add the what? The ID here. So you stop there. So with this, you have also what? Captured the two elements. All right. Now, once we have done that, we need to end this section. So outside this, the next thing is for us to create a variable that will replace what? That will pass in the amount. The amount, you know, we have not declared it, right? We have not declared the amount. So when they click, how much are they going to see? That is the reason why we want to write this. So it will now be cost. So we are creating an element, cost, and it's going to be product costs. Product cost equals to, let's say what? 2,000. Product cost 2,000. So if I want to add, okay, if I want to add $, what will I do? I will take it as what? String, right? Before typing this. So let's say this So that is the price they are going to see. That is the price they are going to see. So now we have just acknowledged all these elements in JS, but we have not added the event listener because it is when they click that they are going to see what? This price. So what we have done at this level is just to capture all those HTML elements in different variables. Now we want to add the event listener. So to add the event listener, remember, this is what we are adding the event listener to. Hope you are aware. So you will do just like what we did, img, are you following? Dot what? Dot what? Add event listener. Add event listener. img dot what? Add event listener. What is your event? Your event is what? Click. What will happen? That is what now? That is the function, right? So I'll create the function. So being a function, you have to add this. And then after this, like I did the other time, you have to what? Add the calling what? Bracket for you to define the scripts. What will happen, what will play out once they touch that what? Image. We are going to react now. I should drop the message now. So now, the next thing we want to acknowledge here, we are going to declare what? We are going to capture, look up. We are going to capture this one. We are going to capture this. Hope you remember, because this is the amount they will see, right? So we are capturing this. So I'll simply say Control C, then come here and declare it. That is the cost of what? Elements. It's not a variable. So we are just capturing it. And then we will now say what? Dot inner what? Dot inner. All right. So let's go on. Now, inner HTML equals to. Now, we are just capturing this as a string. Equals to costs. Then maybe is in dollar or is in what? Naira. Are you with me? You put the symbol there. And then the next you are going to do outside, you are still within this inverted comma. You bring in the calling what? Bracket, because you want to reference what? Variable that is holding the what? The value. In other words, that 2,000 will be attached to what? Costs. It will not. All right. So now here we are referencing a variable. And which of the variable? This, right? This is where you have the cost now, right? That will be added to this description. So I'll take the whole of this. All right. So now, we have to call to show that we are done with the entire code. I hope somebody understands what the logic that plays out here. Okay, ask your question. Let me correct that. So inner HTML. So this will have to be M. I think I'm right now, right? Inner HTML. Okay. How would what? The previous cost. Which one? This one here? Yes, now this is it now. You understand? This is the beginning, is enveloping both the string. The reason why we wrap it because of this string, because we have not captured this anywhere. You understand? So we are concatenating. We want to display both the string that we are capturing now and the value in that. That's why we have to separate them. So now let's go to the front end and see. So if I click, let's refresh. Oh, we are not going to debug. So write your own so that if we're having issue, let's see it's working for somebody first.
Let me add this. First element your style. Because it might be displaying, but at the back of it. That's why I want to display it block so that it will display where we can see it. So just write, let's confirm.
Oh, this is what we are talking about, have you?
No. This product calls the HTML.
Okay, here, right?
Yes. That product calls.
Oh, it's supposed to be cost elements.
It's supposed to be cost element.
Okay. Let me see whether. Ah, it's true. I was the one that made mistake. On my notes. So here should be cost element. Cost what? Element, right? Cost element. So let's see. Perfect. But we are supposed to, I think this is what we were talking about. So which means that what we now have here, what I am outputting here, product costs. Wait, let me leave this first. I just want to see. Let me remove that inverted so that to display it direct. Because it's calling it as string instead of the function that is stored with. Perfect. You can just leave it like this. So once you refresh the page, once you click on it, so you can program multiple information. This is the price. You can add what? The name. Can we do that classwork? That single clicking, look at it here now. Now, the single clicking is showing what is. When they click, it should also show what? The name.
Yeah.
To the code.